all in the main deck. And yet Brad took game one.
Yeah, I mean, this is the base of Rajan's deck. I don't know exactly about the full 75 cards, but I think is a very good choice for this tournament as long as Whip of Erebos decks are as popular as they are.
And to run down where we're at right here, we're late in game one. Ranjan has many lands in play, and he's using Pearl Lake Ancient. So we're at the spot where Ranjan should be in a great situation. However, Brad's going to do his own control deck impression. He has 2 Jeskai Ascendancies in play, which really can do a number on a control deck.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about this token deck. For a deck that has Raise the Alarm and Hordeling Outburst and Lightning Strike, it's got a surprising amount of game once you get to turn 8 or turn 9.
Yeah.
Brad's hand it's all card. I mean, he's stocked.
Yeah, Pradeep is at 21. Generally, the way Brad would win here is with Burn. So that's a tall order, especially with the ability to replay cards like Radiant Fountain.
Curious if Brad just got his initial offense stymied by a Drown in Sorrow or Bile-Blight type of effect. Because it's very weird to see the game have gone on for this long and have Rajan at 21. I mean, I can imagine him winning and being at, or the game going on being at like 12 or 13. But being this high, I suspect Brad must have gotten hit with some sweepers.
Treasure Cruise from Brad, and you look at his hand, it is full of tools. And this is the interesting part, right? If Pradeep cannot answer the Jeskai Ascendancies, can he still win the late game?
It's going to be tough, although by the looks of things, I think Brad's deck might be getting pretty lean at this point.
That's what I was going to ask, is he doesn't have to answer them as long as he, Brad has to win. Yes, and he will go through his entire deck at this pace.
Yeah.
Are there enough cards in Brad's deck to win from here? It's possible that Pradeep can just take all the burn spells, gain life with Pearl Lake Ancient and lands, and simply end the game with a positive life total.
That's a slow burn. I guess that's possible, but that is settling in.
I mean, that's my kind of game.
Sure. No, I get it.
Brad is attempting to Jeskai Charm the Pearl Lake Ancient. That would only put it on top of Pradeep's deck. And this is the scary thing. Brad he can play 3 spells a turn for the rest of the game. And Pradeep has the decision here. He can put Pearl Lake Ancient on top of his deck, or he can bounce 3 lands, and it looks like he's going to go for the 3 lands option.
Yeah, it still has enough mana to go ahead and replay the Pearl Lake Ancient, and it allows Rajan to put the Radiant Fountain back into his hand, which may be the real goal of all of this anyway.
Temple into play for Ranjan. And Hero's Downfall will take care of the Seeker and clean up the board yet again. In his hand, it looks stocked, but it's just a lot of lands. Multiple copies of Radiant Fountain. He does have a Bile-Blight, which is an excellent tool against Brad, to be fair.
Brad can try to set up the game in such a way where he can chain together multiple spells to have a token survive Bile-Blight, but that's really hard to do.
Brad's point where he's going to start counting.
Brad's picked up an Elspeth,
copies.
and
yeah,
I mean, he can just try to jam Elspeth into play.
We'll start with Hordeling Outburst. No reason to try for that just yet. Wants to exhaust counter spells, I think. He's drawing so many cards that very quickly he'll run Ranjan out of counter magic.
Tellingly, though, Brad has stopped looting with his ascendancies, which I think may mean that he's concerned about getting decked here as well.
Well, if he has lethal damage between burn and tokens in hand, he doesn't need to loot yet. He has so many loot triggers that he really should only be looting when he has a land in his hand to loot away, which he doesn't right now. Bile-Blight, going to try to take care of all these tokens. Ranjan doing it on his own turn. Brad's going to stoke the flames at Ranjan. That untaps the tokens twice, making them a 3/3.
And Brad is checking. It looks approximately a dozen cards left in his deck.
This burn spell will put Ranjan down to 17. And the fact that Brad is having to do this on Ranjan's turn, I mean, this is really heads up on him to play the Bioblade on his own turn.
Yeah, you do not want to end up losing this fight and then unleashing a ton of damage.
And if Brad's willing to stoke once to save his tokens, I have to think he's going to do it again or play something. He has a lot of cards in his hand. Hordling Outburst, another Stoke the Flames, along with some white cards. And it's going to be, I think, Raise the Alarm. That'll bring his tokens up to a 5/5. And Rajan's going to Bioblade again in response here.
But still, this still feels like a bit of success here for Brad to be able to trade the Bioblades for cards he was going to cast anyway.
If Brad stoked the Flames at Ranjan here, he can still save the Goblin tokens, right?
Well, they would go up to 7/7s, and they would be -6, -6.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Well, the two soldiers are into play. Brad's going to hang on to the stoke. I guess it depends on how big that stack was there, whether or not that would work.
Yeah. But Brad's just going to let it go.
Yeah, actually, if everything was on one stack, then that play would not work.
Sure.
So Brad will let it go. He still gets to untap with 2 Ascendancies and 2 creatures in play. That's not shabby. He can do a lot of work with that setup.
But this might be kind of his last opportunity to get a big hit, because Rajan's deck full removal. He has Pearl Lake to block with next turn. And Brad, for all of the setup, still only has the 2 creatures in play.
Yeah, he'd like to have almost 2 more, and then I think he could Alpha Strike here. Still, he's setting up for Elspeth Sun's champion. I can't help but think that this is all set up on Brad's part.
Yeah.
Casting Hordling Outburst, he's going to loot away the land he'd drawn. Gets 3 goblins, pumps the soldier tokens. This should be enough to get any sweeper out of Ranjan's hand. It'll really test him to see what he has.
I think we would have seen it last turn. Maybe casting the 2 Bioblades is better than firing off a Drown in Sorrow there, but the problem is that there's no guarantee the sweeper is even good.
Yeah, I was thinking something like a Perilous Vault, but we probably would have already seen that a long time ago. Those are the sweepers he has. Also, Ranjan has access to 2 copies of Aether Spouts here.
Okay. Only 4 mana up right now, but
yeah. So it's not. I'm just thinking of ways he can sweep the board. And he does have 3 negates in his sideboard as well. So a lot of good interaction on Ranjan's side.
it's like Brad's kind of trying to start off the action here with a freebie stoke.
And with the way Ranjan set up his deck, if Brad wins this match 2-0, then I'm worried as a control player, because this deck looks to be set up really nicely against Jeskai. Main deck Bioblades, main deck Drown in Sorrows, a bunch of negates in the board, some Aether Spouts. This is what I'd want to be doing here.
And it still may not be enough.
Yeah, that's the worry. I mean, what that says to me is I think you'd have to play white to get rid of these ascendancies. The danger of blue-black, straight blue-black, is that you can't really answer a resolved enchantment very well.
Yeah, this is just too much. I mean, Rajan can't even get out of that turn.
And Brad Nelson at 8-1, he makes it into the top 8.
Just an impressive performance by this Jeskai token deck. There's nothing more to be said about it. And as you mentioned, Rajan's deck, it's bringing a lot of good action for this matchup here, and it was not enough.
Moral of the story is you just have to answer the ascendancy. You can't let them have that card.
Yeah, and maybe, I don't know how many Thoughtseize are in the main deck. It appears to be
3 in the sideboard.
Maybe that's the answer. Maybe you need to play negate in the main deck. I don't know, but